I don't know. This Vancouver thing is interesting. Like, the more this goes on, it felt like JT Miller was going to be traded to the Rangers, and that, like, it almost felt like it was happening momentarily.
Yeah.
And then completely went away.
And then stopped.
And now it seems like, based on the last couple days, it's starting to shift towards Pettersson. Doing everything I can to try to get that guy. I don't know.
Well, and then there's, the next level down. It's like, well, we're also probably going to get rid of Brock Besser. Like, oof.
Well, but if they're just
what is going on?
But if they're just selling off, see, like the difference between trying to get Rantanen from Colorado is Colorado is still have cup aspirations. What?
Carolina now.
No, yeah, but I'm saying like in that trying to acquire him from Colorado was more difficult, as we talked about before it happened, because what pieces did the Hawks have to help Colorado now?
Right.
Whereas if they're trying to trade with Vancouver, if they're trading Pettersson and or Miller and or Besser, they're rebuilding. They're kind of starting again.
Yeah, that's a signal, because it's rare you're going to get a guy that is replaceable for either of those guys.
Right.
In like a equal trade. So if you're moving that one of those players out, yeah, I think you're starting to signal like we're changing things up in a big way.
I don't know.
I'm
sure that call has been made. I hope they keep an eye on it. It's
as Davidson said, like if something's available that makes sense, they will explore it and see what happens.
Yeah. How do you feel about JT Miller, by the way?
I mean, I think if he's in a good situation, he's a very, very effective player. And I just think whatever's going on in Vancouver is just affecting him, because he's been good in Tampa. He's been good in New York. He's been good at times in Vancouver. Like, I think he's a quality player, but I don't think he fits the timeline. If I'm looking at Vancouver and I'm looking at if they're open for business, I would much rather have Elias Pettersson.
I agree with that. I think, I was reading about it in The Athletic a couple days ago about Miller, and it's just he seems to go as the team goes.
Right.
So when things are going well, he's happy. When things are not going well, he's upset. And you mentioned he was good with this team and that team and that team and that team, yet they keep moving on from him.
Right.
So there must be something there with him. So I don't know. I don't know. People were not very satisfied with what Kyle Davidson had to say. We broke it down on Monday, but the key phrase from that is, if something presents itself and it makes sense, we will definitely do it.
Yeah.
Or try to do it. And I think maybe people don't know that they made a big push, according to Elliot Friedman, for Jake Gensel last summer.
Mm-hmm.
So they tried to go get the best available free agent because they thought it made sense. And he chose Tampa, which, okay, makes sense.
That's a smart move.
He wants to go win, of course. Yeah. But you also, I think the rebuttal to that would be, we'll pay him more. But Jake Gensel's what, 31?
No, he's not that old.
Is he not that old?
He's 28.
To the internet, he's 30.
30? Oh,
so if you give him an 8-year deal,
turn 30 at the start of the year.
With 13-14 million just to get him to sign in Chicago.
Oh God, no.
In 5 years, you're going to be like, this was a bad move.
I mean, as the salary cap goes up, it hurts less, but yeah, that's a big overpayment.
And you're going to have Seth Jones 2.0 in the fans' minds, because Jake Gensel is going to cost you re-signing Korchinski or Doc whoever it might be down the road. But Rantanen or Pettersson, who are what, 26?
Rantanen is 28, I believe, and Pettersson's 26.
Yeah, that's different.
Those are guys that if they bought into the situation in Chicago, then yeah, they fit the timeline, and they are in that elite tier of player that you play with Connor Bedard and you kind of set it and forget it. Like, those two guys, they play together, and let it play out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that Rantanen is a guy I would give $2 million more to come play here. What's your best offer? 13? We'll give you 15.
Yeah.
Come here and play for 15.
And again,
you're going to be this other face of our franchise.
It comes down to like what those guys want to do at the end of the day too. Like, sometimes that extra $2 million on a team like Chicago might not matter because I can get a lot of money and also win more in the immediacy, have a better shot at a cup in the immediacy. And some guys might think that way.
Sure.
But you still go out there and you still be aggressive.
Well, and I mean, Davidson said that too. He said, look, like we can't force people to stay here, and you have to be somewhat responsible financially.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just made that Gensel example. Like you don't want to pay a guy in his 30s a ton of money in a ton of years just to convince him. But if it is your Marian Hossa, which would be Rantanen, I think him specifically, and maybe Mitch Marner, you would throw in that category too.
Yeah, of a free agent signing of that caliber.
That you're not afraid to overpay a little bit on because you know the return is going to be good for a long time.
Yeah.
That's the balance. And I think one thing we can say about Davidson, whether you're a fan or not, is that he is pretty logical. He is pretty measured. He doesn't do a lot of things recklessly.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting offseason.
We all silly like the mayor.